This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry. This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, our Memorial Day weekend edition. Very, very solemn, important holiday period. We are thanking our brave servicemen who have protected us throughout decades, throughout centuries. And, of course, I represent the families of some fallen heroes, Gold Star parents, whether it's Extortion 17, the largest loss of life during the Afghan war, or the parents of Benghazi victims, Pat Smith and Charles Woods. We're pursuing justice for them on a number of fronts. And this is something about Freedom Watch that separates what we do from a lot of other public interest groups, including my former one, Judicial Watch, which mainly just gets documents, doesn't bring cases, doesn't bring actual cases, but in fact just gets those documents. Well, we get the documents and we do more than that. And I'll tell you why we're doing more than that. And I want you to understand something here. I've been talking in the last few weeks for you not to be fooled by what you hear on Hannity on Fox News or Laura Ingraham or Judge Jeanine or whatever, who want to present a very happy image here to boost ratings, to boost advertising dollars, telling you that finally there's going to be justice with regard to Mueller, Comey, Rosenstein, the Lovebirds. You've got Brennan, Clapper, McCabe, the Obamas, and the Clintons. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if it comes to our government, it ain't going to happen. What we have here is mutual assured destruction. We've seen how the Democrats, those rabid, vicious Democrats, and we're going to get to what happened just in the last few days with Nancy Pelosi, how they are going after Attorney General Barr. And he's done some good things. He shut down the Mueller investigation, but now he's under siege. The president's on the verge of impeachment. It's getting worse and worse every day. And the reason that Attorney General Barr investigation with John Durham in Connecticut, U.S. Attorney, career Justice Department official, was pushback. Because what I have learned is there's no grand jury in process. They're simply gathering information. And what are they waiting for? You know, when at Duke University, I was a French literature major in addition to being a political science major. I read books by someone by the name of Ionesco. He wrote Waiting for Godot. You know, this is existentialism. We're in an existential world right now, which doesn't seem to have any rationality. I believe in God, but few people do. And I'm sure you do as well. But what they're doing here is cosmetic. It's for show. It's not for dough. Because this is a career prosecutor. He's obviously, if he pushes too hard, even when he brought a prosecution earlier part of his career against Whitey Bulger in Boston, Massachusetts, Mueller was sitting on top of that investigation. And he did some things that were improper, misconduct. No one ever went after him. They went after a lower-level FBI agent. And that's what's going to happen here. There'll be a few people burned at the lower level, but not at the higher stages of government, not at the higher stages of people who have committed crimes against the American people, whether it's Mueller, whether it's Comey, whether it's Rosenstein, whether it's the Lovebirds, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, the Obamas, and the Clintons, and of course there's Bruce Orr. So I want you to understand that, and that's very important. And when these cases get in front of judges, we can also see what happened this week. This is very, very important because the president had two very bad decisions this week in front of two judges, one of which I've been in front of before, Amit Mehta. He's an Obama appointee of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. He is a political hack. I mean, that's what he is. And he ruled that the president needed to turn over his tax declarations from his accounting firm to Gerald Nadler and to the House of Representatives, and in effect Nancy Pelosi. And he wouldn't even give the president a stay, meaning that he wouldn't even say, well, I'll give you time to do that so you can take it up on appeal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. That's the appellate court in the federal level in Washington, D.C., or to the U.S. Supreme Court. He said, you got to turn them over immediately. This is something I go through all the time. And then there's another judge, Edgardo Ramos, of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, who ordered that all of the president's Deutsche Bank documents be turned over from his business enterprises. Well, this is none of Congress's business. These are things that happened before the president became president. They're not impeachable in any way. And frankly, tax returns are private. The president is a private citizen. And for these things to be turned over, and there's even some legislation out there around the country right now that before you can register to be a candidate for president of the United States, you have to turn over your tax returns. Okay, well, what happened during the Obama years? We were asking that you simply present a birth certificate to show that you're a natural-born citizen, that you were born in the United States to two American parents. That's the definition of it. It's in our Constitution. Well, Democrats didn't think anything of that. They said, well, if you ask for Obama's birth certificate, you must be a racist against African Americans. But now it's okay against a white president to go after his tax returns, which are even more confidential than a birth certificate, which isn't confidential at all. And it is a fact that Obama birth certificate is fraudulent. My great client and patriot Jerry Corsi has proved that. My other client, Sheriff Arpaio, did a thorough investigation to prove it was fraudulent without regard to where Obama was born. But the birth certificate's false. Just as one example, Obama was born in 1961, and he used the term African American on that birth certificate. That term wasn't used in 1961. You were black. Everybody else in Hawaii, where President Obama claimed to have been born, was black on the birth certificate, or African American. It didn't exist. So this is what we're going through, and these political hack judges, Ramos was also appointed by Obama. They're making these decisions, very political. They don't care whether they're right or wrong. They don't care about Privacy Act rights for President Trump or anybody else who's a conservative. This is true right across the board, whether you're talking about judges and courts, whether you're talking about bar associations that go after conservative lawyers, but they lay off of liberal lawyers like David Kendall, the Clintons' lawyers who helped destroy 33,000 email and obstructed justice with BleachBit and everything else. They don't care about that. But we live in this very political world where the judges who are supposed to protect us, in fact, are not protecting us. The framers put them in there to be a check on the other two branches of government, to prevent government tyranny, to protect us from ourselves. And what we have are hack judges on the bench. And this president is being terrorized. Literally, it's a jihad against him by these leftist Obama and Clinton appointed judges. And I've gone through this a lot. I mean, there's some good judges out there, very few. Judge Royce Lamberth, who made a number of good rulings for me during the Clinton years, and he now has Arpaio's case where defamation lawsuits were brought against CNN and Chris Cuomo and the head of CNN, Jeff Zucker, with regard to Huffington Post, with regard to Rolling Stone. There are judges out there that will enforce the law, but they're few and far between. I can count them on one hand in my entire 42-year career. Now, you might get a neutral judge when you're dealing here with a private dispute between two ordinary parties, ordinary citizens, without politics. But when politics comes into it, if there's any tinge, these judges are not just politicized, they're political hacks. Now, let's talk about another political hack of the highest magnitude. I mean, I used to call Hillary Clinton, I still do, the wicked witch of the left. And she is. 80 people died in and around the Clinton years. I'm sure not all were by law of average. Many of them were witnesses. I believe, frankly, she had people hit. I think she used mafia connections to do it and other connections. And she truly is a witch. I don't need to go further than that. But the person who actually presents the most convincing persona of a witch is Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she just reeks hatred. She reeks disdain. She's, visually, and when you listen to her, maybe the most disgusting person I have ever heard as a politician. And yesterday, before the president was supposed to have a meeting to try to come to terms on getting new infrastructure bills so we can repair our highways, Freudian slip, and get things rolling in this country, because the country is crumbling. It's, just look at New York City, for example. I mean, the trash on every street corner, roads that look like you're on the moon, scaffolding everywhere. Los Angeles is not much different. All around the country, we're crumbling. Bridges are collapsing. I mean, you name it. And to try to queer this deal, okay, so to speak, and I don't mean that in the gay sense, but destroy this deal that they were going to make, Pelosi announces that the president's engaged in a cover-up, just like Richard Nixon during Watergate. And the president was right to walk off. He said, I can't deal with you under these circumstances. You're trying to destroy me. There's no common ground. The president will be back, and he'll use his executive powers, and he'll find a way to get the job done. He always does. But this is what we're dealing with, and it's clear that Pelosi making that statement, it was a prelude to impeachment. There's going to be impeachment. 100% there's going to be impeachment. And whether or not there's a conviction in the U.S. Senate, and there won't be, this will damage Trump enough that could cost him the next election, and we get that idiot, Joe Biden, in as president. Somebody who has no morals, who has no positions. He's a chameleon. He takes the color. He's like Zelig, Woody Allen Zelig, of anything that he's with. He's a chameleon. Someone who plagiarized when he was in law school. And this is what we could wind up with. And it worked, with Bill Clinton, because when that impeachment occurred, it weakened Clinton enough that it then rubbed off on Al Gore. And we got another idiot, George W. Bush, as president of the United States, a Republican idiot. Well, Biden is as stupid as Bush. And worse, he's a leftist. So this is what we're facing. And this is why we at Freedom Watch are doing our best to, in effect, become the president's defense counsel in a way, just like I was for Jerry Corsi. We were protecting the president as well as Jerry Corsi, because someone needs to push back. Someone needs to take the initiative here, and it will be Larry Klayman and your Freedom Watch. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, see what we're doing, contribute to our cause. I'm going to be right back with our second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Dangerous.
Don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now, let me tell you how we're pushing back, okay? Because we're just not sitting here gathering documents like Tom Fitton, who's not a lawyer at Judicial Watch, scratching our chest, beating our chest, wearing tight shirts, going on TV, and doing all kinds of other things. We're actually here, wearing clothes that most people wear unless they want to show their physique, and for whatever reason. And we're out here actually doing the heavy lifting for the American people as your Justice Department. Let me give you an example of the difference between Judicial Watch when I ran it and Judicial Watch today, and Freedom Watch, which I now run today, and Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch this week gets an article published that they got an award of attorney's fees because they were seeking documents with regard to Antifa, that vigilante group mostly located in Northern California. Antifa filed a frivolous lawsuit against Judicial Watch, and the judge ordered that attorney's fees be paid. But what was Judicial Watch doing? It was simply trying to get documents about Antifa. Now, what did Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch do on behalf of our valiant client, Ms. Robles, who was attacked during a speech by Milo at Berkeley? She was attacked with pepper spray. Lights were shined into her eyes. She was damaged. She was wounded. We actually brought a lawsuit against Antifa. We brought a lawsuit against Berkeley, who didn't protect Kiara Robles. That's her name. A very nice gay gal, sweet, a person who is a Trump supporter, is a conservative. And we stood up for her. We brought an actual lawsuit. And that's going through the courts right now. We drew a judge, just like the judges I was mentioning before, a hack judge, who let Berkeley out of the case, and she let Antifa out of the case. And we've now got it up in appeal at the Ninth Circuit. I'm confident it's coming back, even from the Ninth Circuit, which itself is very liberal. This judge was a professor at Berkeley Law School for 8 years. You can tell what she was doing with that. So this is the difference between what Freedom Watch does and what Judicial Watch does. Okay, great, documents. What are you going to do with documents? Okay, frame them and put them on your wall. We actually bring lawsuits to try to bring about justice. And that's why we need your support. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. We are your Justice Department. And this plays into what Pelosi's doing and what Mueller did and what the rest of them did, is that we actually have a lawsuit. I brought it on behalf of Dr. Jerome Corsi, who I succeeded at not having been indicted. We kept him from being indicted by Mueller. I brought this lawsuit, by the way, in my private capacity for Jerry Corsi, and it's against Robert Mueller. And it alleges violations of constitutional rights, rights of privacy, not to be illegally surveilled, breach of grand jury secrecy rules, all kinds of things, okay? And it's a very strong case, and just this week we've been preparing legal briefs. Mueller's trying to get out of it, but he's not going to be able to get out of it. But we are seeking a huge amount of damages against him personally to hold him personally accountable. Again, the difference between Freedom Watch and Judicial Watch, the difference between what's going on in government today with these dog and pony show investigations, just to push back, to keep the Democrats from destroying Attorney General Barr and others around him and the president and Congress. They're tactical. Okay, but we're actually bringing hard-hitting lawsuits. So I want you, again, to see what I'm doing. Go to LarryKlayman.com, support the Corsi Legal Defense Fund, because Larry Klayman is your advocate, even as a private counsel here, for bringing about justice with Robert Mueller. Now, if that's not enough, we've got lawsuits, and I'm going to get into that in the third segment. This is why I don't have any guests today, because I want you to know what we're doing, is that I have lawsuits against Ilhan Omar, okay, that vile, rabid Muslim. Okay, not all Muslims are bad people, but she is, okay? She's a vehement anti-Semite. She's anti-Israel. She's anti-Trump, and she committed immigration fraud. She married her brother to get her brother's citizenship, and she cavorts around with terrorists and terrorist-related groups, which creates a security threat. She's a representative from Minnesota in the House of Representatives, getting a lot of press. We brought a lawsuit to force an investigation of her by the Department of Homeland Security, to ultimately have her referred for criminal prosecution for committing fraud on the immigration services of this country, and also to have her deported. She just recently said she wants to end deportations. Well, you know what? She should be deported. I'm going to be right back, and we're going to talk about more about what Freedom Watch and Larry Klayman are doing, because, you see, we're in a crisis right now. We know that. Just turn on television. I don't care, which cable network. You'll see that we are under siege, the American people. And that's why you need Larry Klayman, Freedom Watch, and Larry Klayman is a private lawyer defending some of these people that are, in fact, are trying to be destroyed by the deep state. I'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Let me tell you what else Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch are doing, and also in my private capacity. We have pending a antitrust lawsuit class action against the social media companies, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Apple, YouTube, Google, you name it. We've got a lawsuit about that, and that's going through the courts right now. It's up on appeal in the District of Columbia Circuit. That's the Federal Circuit Court. But I'm also going to be bringing a new case. I'm down in Florida today, my home state. I'm sitting here in Boca Raton, Florida, and I'm doing this radio show because we're preparing a new lawsuit for Laura Loomer and others. Antitrust, also against Facebook and some of these other companies which have banned her and others from the Internet because of their conservative advocacy and their content. Laura, by the way, is the one who exposed initially the immigration fraud by Representative Ilhan Omar, and we owe her a great debt of gratitude for that. Now, she's never harmed anybody. But they call her dangerous, you see, and this destroys her reputation. It doesn't allow her to earn a living. She was knocked off of Facebook. She was defamed by Facebook. So we not only have an antitrust lawsuit, but we have a defamation lawsuit, a libel lawsuit. And others defamed her right after that, too. They jumped on the bandwagon. They're trying to destroy this poor woman. You've got National Public Radio, called her a white supremacist. I mean, there's no limits here. But here's what I want to point out. Now, I like Mark Levin, okay? We've never been that friendly. I think he felt competitive with me when I came on the scene at Judicial Watch. I hope that someday we can become friends. I don't dislike him in any way. In fact, I think, other than yours truly, okay, I've got to obviously promote myself. I think that Mark Levin is the most talented person on radio. He generally comes up with more of an analysis, legal analysis, than anybody else out there. I like Larry Elder, too. I think Larry's very good. He's very thoughtful. He's very close to Mark Levin in talent, I believe. But Mark Levin just wrote a book about the media. Okay, he wrote a book about the leftist media, how it's been co-opted, by the Democrats, and how we no longer have a media. You always hear Hannity talking about that. That's his monologue, which he repeats over and over again every night. I mean, I don't need to hear it anymore. It's the same monologue. But I have to take my hat off for Mark, and that's good that he's educating people. But see, Mark, go back years ago, he ran Landmark Legal. He got a little jealous of me because I started Judicial Watch. We were getting a lot of the press, and that's why we never became close friends. I wanted to be, but he didn't want to be. But he's writing a book. Now, what does Freedom Watch do? What does Larry Klayman do? We just don't write. I write columns every week for WorldNet Daily, for Newsmax. I have my own stuff up on the Internet. I send out press releases. But we're actually bringing hard-hitting cases, and that's why we need your support. Because, yes, there is a problem with the leftist media. Freedom Watch has a leftist. We've sued virtually every leftist media organization, whether it's CNN, whether it's NBC, whether it's the Huffington Post, whether it's Rolling Stone, whether it's the Washington Post for Jerry Corsi, whether it's the New York Times for Sheriff Joe Arpaio, whether it's Showtime for Judge Roy Moore in Alabama or CBS. We are actually doing the heavy lifting. So other people talk about it, other people write about it, and that's good to educate the American people. But it's Freedom Watch and Larry Klayman who are actually seeking to do something about it. Because if we sock these people with very large damages, and it's not because I want to make money, if that was my intent these days, I'd be off retired on a beach down here in Florida. But I'm not. I'm not wealthy. And I've always done this because it comes from my heart. It comes from what I believe in. I believe that God put me here to perform a mission. In fact, there's been occasions, two times, that Jesus came to me and said, Larry, you're working for me. I'm not crazy. If you open your heart to God, he will come in. And he will guide you. I don't always do the right thing. I'm seeking his guidance every morning. I pray every morning and at night. And I seek, what do you want me to do, God? What do you want me to do, Jesus? And I've had that personal experience. And that's why a lot of people say that I'm fearless, because I don't worry about the consequence. I get threatened all the time. Okay, I was threatened by some radical Muslim last week who wants to come after me. But you know what? We've got to do what we have to do. We can't be afraid. Our founding fathers were not afraid. They pledged their fortunes and they risked their lives to form a new nation. Now, we are losing our nation right now. We have these rabid Democrats, and I'm nonpartisan, but unfortunately the Democrats are who they are. They're socialists, they're communists, they're radical feminists, they're radical Muslims, they're radical gays, lesbians, transgenders, they're everything else. You know, everybody deserves equal rights in this country, but when you're radical and you're banding together to try to take down this country because you want to form it in your image, you want to create a new country similar to what they used to have in the Soviet Union, in my opinion, or what, in the case of the radical Muslims, they have in Iran, or God knows where. Now, this is what we have to fight, and we have to risk everything to save our country. And I believe in peaceful and legal means. I'll never advocate a violent revolution, but it's going to happen unless I'm succeeding and you're succeeding at what you do. And we need your support at freedomwatchusa.org. We need you to support the Clive and Bundy Defense Fund.org, CliveandBundyDefenseFund.org. We're defending Clive and Bundy. The tyranny of government tried to put him away for life when he simply wanted to ranch on his land. This is the American way of life. The land, ranching. It's just a great, fantastic family. I'm like a member of the family at this point. Jerry Corsi, who stood up to the tyranny of Robert Mueller and is pushing back, said, I'm not going to lie in front of my creator. I'm not going to give false witness to the president of the United States to bring him down. And if I have to go away for life, I'll do it. And we beat Mueller back. And of course, he was never indicted. Stone was, because Stone lied under oath and threatened witnesses. Jerry played it straight. You know, he did the right thing. So this is what we're up against here. And that's why you need to join our Justice League. You need to contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. We need to get bigger and stronger, and we need to be your Justice Department, because it's not going to happen. Look back in the last 30 years. Who has been held accountable at a high level? No one. Everybody's walked off scot-free. Okay, a couple middle-level people got burned at the stake so they could say, well, they got some scalps. And that's what's going to happen now. But if we don't take strong action against the Muellers, the Rosensteins, the McCabe's, the Comeys, the Brennans, the Clappers, this deep state, they're still out there, the Pelosi's, the Nadlers, the Schiffs, the Maxine Waters. If we don't push back with peaceful and legal means, I don't think our country has more than 5 to 10 years left. We're headed into the abyss right now. And God forbid, and I don't advocate who to vote for as the head of a public interest group, but if Joe Biden or anybody else on the Democrat side, because Biden is a chameleon, he'll become just like Cortez, he'll become like Omar. He's got to get elected. He's got to make good on his promises. I don't think he'll make it to Election Day. His health looks really bad. He can barely talk most of the time. But we're going to get some radical leftist in there if Trump doesn't win. And that's why we need justice right now, because we need to try to save his presidency. By saving his presidency, we're saving ourselves and we're saving our loved ones. And here we are on Memorial Day, where our brave servicemen died for us, where our founding fathers risked their lives, where the colonialists died for us, where in other foreign wars and American wars, people died for our nation. And I want to honor the families of our clients this Memorial Day, the families of the fallen heroes of Extortion 17, which the Obama administration covered up, special ops forces who were shot down trying to take out Taliban terrorists in the Tangi Valley. Well, what did Freedom Watch do in that regard? We have lawsuits on behalf of these families against Iran that paid bounties for every dead GI, against the Taliban, against Afghanistan, against the former corrupt president of Afghanistan, who probably sold the coordinates of these troops out so the Taliban could kill them with a shot from an RPG. So we are bringing lawsuits. We're very close to getting a judgment. Now, I have a leftist judge who's dragged her feet, for 6 years. Catelli, I fought with her for years. She was appointed by Clinton. Her husband defended a Secret Service agent in the White House. But she's going to have to come down with a judgment soon. And this is going to be a judgment that'll bring about justice, because our government has covered up what happened. I think maybe somebody inside the military working with Karzai gave up the coordinates of these brave people who went into battle on an antiquated Chinook helicopter. 30 special ops died. Somebody sold them out for cold cash. And it was covered up. Jason Chaffetz, who you see on Fox News, was chairman of the subcommittee of the Government Reform and Oversight Committee. He covered it up. There was a hearing. came in there. He said, gee, we're really sorry that everybody died. He showed a couple crocodile tears and he walked off. He never found out what happened. And Obama promised that these families would be given the truth, and they were never given the truth. And therefore, we're now pushing back. And also our brave clients, Charles Woods, Pat Smith, their sons, Ty Woods, Sean Smith died at Benghazi. We're still fighting that one. We got this very leftist judge, Amy Berman Jackson, who has the Stone prosecution and other prosecutions with Manafort. She dismissed that case on the eve of Memorial Day, if you can believe that. A real slap at these families. Well, we're proceeding ahead. We've got other things up our sleeve for them. We're not giving up. Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch never gives up, just like I never gave up at Judicial Watch. I'm the only lawyer ever to have a court rule that Bill Clinton committed a crime when he released the Privacy Act protected files of Kathleen Willey. So that's why this Memorial Day, you should thank God that there are people out there. I want people to join us. You know, I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't consider myself equal to the founding fathers. Some people have equated me with that, but no one was equal with Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin from my native city of Philadelphia or John Adams. Okay, nobody was their equal, but I try to get as close as I can to fulfilling, you know, their vision and their desire to keep this country free with liberty. And it was Adams who said, I'm actually closer to Jefferson in thought. You know, he's more of a Republican. He was more of an individualist. Adams was a federalist. He believed in federal power. I don't believe in federal power to that extent. But he said that you can change your forms of government and your rulers many times, but without ethics, morality, and religion, you will not have a lasting liberty. And we have to remember that this Memorial Day, because our fallen heroes fought to preserve that concept. And Adams also said, in forming the new nation in and around July 4th, 1776, that we were to be a nation of laws and not men. Well, we have become a nation of men and not laws. And that's what your Freedom Watch is fighting to restore in this country. So we need you to sign up to our Justice League. We need to mobilize. We need you to join our citizens' grand juries. I'm going to discuss more about that in the last segment, is that we need to take justice into our own hands, just like Wyatt Earp in the Old West. I talked about that last week. Go up on our website, watch the trailer, watch that movie, because Wyatt Earp had to do it for himself. There was no other person out there other than his brothers and a few others that were enforcing the law. We have to do it. There was no Justice Department then. There's no Justice Department now. The judges are corrupt by and large. So therefore, we need to start citizens' grand juries in addition to our hard-hitting lawsuits that have fallen by the grace of God with some good judges who will enforce the law. But we, the American people, need to rise up ourselves. We need to have these citizens' grand juries. We need to indict, we need to try, we need to convict, we need to sentence, and then we need to ask President Trump to enforce those sentences. And if he will not, then we have the right legally. We're going to be peaceful. We're not going to be violent in any way, but we will seek to enforce the sentences ourselves. So I'm going to be back, and we're going to talk more about these citizens' grand juries, and we're going to sign off on this Memorial Day. But I want you to spend some time thinking about where this country is going, what we can do to bring it back to the vision of our founding fathers. It racks my mind every morning, and I'm doing what I can, and we welcome your suggestions as well. I'll be right back with the verdict segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman this Memorial Day weekend. So I want you to reflect on what I've said throughout this show, because we have our own destiny in our own hands, just like the Founding Fathers did. And we face a situation no less severe than what they did. In many ways, the tyranny that we see in government today is worse than King George III. At least he was educated. Some of these people are just morons, that are in our government, and they're dangerous. They're dangerous people. So we need to rise up. We need to use our citizens' grand juries. Justice Scalia said the grand jury belongs to the American people. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be starting grand juries, not just in Ventura County, California, but also in Florida, right here in Florida. We're going to have several of them. We'll be in a hometown near you soon. And we're going to indict Mueller. We're going to indict Comey. We're going to indict the Clintons, the Obamas, the Clappers, everybody that I talked about during this show. We're going to then have them tried. We're going to have them convicted. We're going to have them sentenced. And we will seek to mete out those sentences peacefully and legally. So we need you to sign up for that. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. And I need you to keep in mind something, because we need to keep fighting. The reason that we need to take the justice system into our own hands peacefully and legally is because of these judges. When I ran for the U.S. Senate here in Florida, I had a 5-part plan to get better non-politicized judges. Judges that were selected on merit by merits panels put up. The judges would serve 2 5-year terms, not life, sentences, for lack of a better word, on the American people, but renewable for good behavior after 5 years so we can get rid of a bad politicized judge. To have them psychologically tested, because many of them are imbalanced. I mean, if they have a fight with their husband or wife that morning, or boyfriend or girlfriend, they'll take it out on you. They aren't trained to be judges. We take judges off the bench, and they become like Dr. Strangelove. They do a Sig Heil on the bench, in effect. Whether a defense lawyer or prosecutor or wherever, they don't even know where they are, a lot of them most of the time. To get them insured, if they make a reckless or negligent decision or intentionally bad decision, get them insured so litigants who are not rich, who can't afford to take appeals, can be compensated for the harm that they do. And, I have other plans on how we can get better judges, but right now we pick them on the basis of political patronage, based upon how much money they gave. I got one judge in the District of Columbia that gave $38,000 to get his judgeship, if you can believe that, an Obama appointee. And that's the way it works. Their law firms donate money, labor unions donate money, and in exchange, they get a judge. And in Obama's case, they got these radical leftists that don't care about the law. So we're always fighting. And these citizens' grand juries go around that, because we're able to bring individuals in front of the grand jury ourselves, entities. We're able to do citizens' trials. We get a retired judge or someone who has a background to be a judge. We get neutral juries to make decisions. We give the defendants an opportunity to present evidence to defend themselves. If they don't want to come, okay, don't come. You'll probably be convicted. And then we'll sentence, and we'll mete those sentences out peacefully and legally. We need to take our justice system back. There's a scene at the beginning of Wyatt Earp, it's a great movie played by Kevin Costner. I want you to watch it. It's 3 hours. It's long. But his dad says to him in the beginning, his dad was a judge. He says, Wyatt, he says, family is the most important thing. You got to hold your family close. Everybody else is just strangers. But the most important thing after your family is the law, because at least you have the law. And then he says, there are a lot of dangerous people in this world. And when you encounter them, don't wait for them to shoot at you. Shoot at them first. And when you shoot to kill. Now, I don't advocate killing anybody. God forbid. I don't advocate harming anybody. But metaphorically, what that means is we have to take them out legally and peacefully before they destroy the country. And that's why I need your strong support. Larry Klayman, Freedom Watch, Jerry Corsi, Corsi Defense Fund. CorseyDefenseFund.com, Clive and Bundy DefenseFund.org. We need your support, because we need to rise up as a people, peacefully and legally, and we need to use the resources that we have to save this country. We're not going to save it through getting documents. Documents are fine. Okay, it gets you on Hannity, gets you on Jeanine Pirro. They want the documents. It's news. But you got to use those documents as evidence, and you need to bring about justice. We got enough documents. Okay, now we need justice. So this Memorial Day, pray for our country, pray for our fallen heroes, pray for your family, pray for the country. God save the country. And I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.